Today's Nuzlocke adventure starts when a character I named Cheese attempts to walk into some tall grass before getting stopped by an old man. The old man offers us a free puppy if we go with him to his lab. Of course, we say no due to safety concerns instilled in us by our parents. Once we arrive together at the lab, I learn the man is Professor Oak, and he introduces me to his grandson and then offers me first choice of Pokemon over him. I chose the green one and I named it Gouda, because he's a Gouda boy. My new rival immediately challenged me to a fight that I win due to a critical hit that was clearly destined to happen. Also, you may have noticed my rival's name is Toast, and that's because I knew I was going to leave him with a serious burn after I defeated him in a battle. Then, it's time to adventure. But in the next town over, the Pokemon clerk stops me and asks me to take a package back to Professor Oak. I agree, as he did just give us Gouda, but also, she gave us no chance to say no. I give the package to Oak, who then gives me a Pokedex and Pokeballs, so now I can capture more Pokemon and really start this adventure. For this Nuzlocke, the rules will be first Pokemon per route, fainting means death, and every Pokemon gets a cheese name. What could possibly go wrong? On Route 1, my first encounter is a Rattata that we call Pizza Rat. Then on Route 22, we capture a Mankey and name her Moz, as in mozzarella. On Route 2, I find a Weedle that I name String. And in Viridian Forest, I catch a Caterpie that I name Blue. Now after some quick grinding, my worms evolved into battle-hardened cocoon monsters. Then it is time to face my rival again. We start the battle with Gouda and he uses a Leech Seed before swapping to Pizza Rat to finish the job. We set up again with Gouda against Toast's Charmander before sending out Moz, who makes light work of him with all her healing needs taken care of. On the way to Pewter City, String evolves into Beedrill and Blue evolves into a Butterfree. Once I arrive at the gym, it is time to face Gym Leader Brock, who stands no chance as Moz quickly takes care of his Geodude, and Gouda is Onyx. With our first badge in hand, we head towards Cerulean City to find the second gym. Before leaving Pewter City, one of Professor Oak's aides gives me running shoes, which I definitely use as seen in this clip of us running. Not to say that I've been fast forwarding most of the off-screen game or anything, and didn't have to use them. In the Pokemon Center before Mount Moon, a man offers us a Magikarp for 500 Pokédollars, which is a steal, but since I can get my own, I decide to say no and instead capture a Jigglypuff we call Puff. I box him never to see the light of day. In Mount Moon, I capture Zubat, who I name Camembert, which makes it sound like some distinguished gentleman. Gouda evolves into Ivysaur against this weird guy calling himself Team Rocket something, but it's fine, we'll probably never see or hear about that again. On Route 4, we find an Ekans that we name Feather, then while training up for the next gym, the unthinkable happens, my first loss. Pizza Rat is killed by one of his own kind, as a critical hit takes him to 0. It definitely had nothing to do with me fast forwarding through the battles and was actually a sad loss. So now I have to set up a farm to send him and any of my other lost Pokemon to. See you on the other side, little guy. We're Feather now part of the team because God knows I was not choosing Puff. It is time to burst Misty. There's no time wasted in actually using this battle as a training opportunity. Gouda makes quick work of both Staryu and Starmie. It's weird though. Starmie has shorter legs than I expected. With my second badge under my belt, it's time to explore. Oh, hi Toast. Moz easily defeats his Pidgeotto with the Rock Tomb TM we got from Brock, and then after a few swaps, Moz also takes out his Abra. Not because just 30 seconds earlier I forgot about Abra's Synchronize ability and accidentally poisoned my own Butterfree or anything. Also, this will not be the first ability I forget to consider that will hurt this run. Then Gouda takes out his Rattata, that he doesn't deserve and I wish would die because mine had to. Sorry about that. Swapping to Moz once again to fight Toast Charmander, Rock Tomb once again quickly wraps up the battle. There are a bunch of trainers on a bridge that we have to battle, and Camembert, my little gentleman, is lost during one of the fights. Why I thought he could take an attack from a level 18 Mankey, I have no idea. Again, I don't think this is related to fast forwarding, but this one did feel a little more preventable. The man at the end of the bridge gives us a nugget and asks us to join his team. We say no, and then he battles us for not joining. Turns out he's another of those Team Rocket guys. I'm starting to think these guys might be in some sort of cult. On Route 24, we miss out on Abra as it breaks out of the Pokeball and teleports away. That's okay as we have another encounter on Route 25, and it's not like that'll happen again, right? It's not like that will happen again, right? So after gaining nothing and going to see Bill as Toast suggested, we help him out of his fursuit, and he rewards us with a ticket for the cruise ship the SS Anne. On Route 5, we catch an Oddish we name Eden, and stop at the daycare to drop off Puff, as I know it's very unlikely that I choose her to join my team. And on Route 6 we get a Meowth we name Ricotta, and arrive in Vermilion City, where a fisherman gives us an old rod. Just like real fishing, this takes patience. And just like that we are capturing our very own Magikarp, and name it Fontina. I knew that $500 was a scam, but also maybe don't get attached to Fontina just yet. After this, I head to Diglett Cave to capture a Diglett, to help us defeat the third gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. Unfortunately, Magnitude 9 KOs Feta before I can do anything. I do end up capturing this Diglett and naming it Gruyere, which I totally have heard of and know how to pronounce. It's not like at this early stage of the game I was already struggling with naming ideas and had to look up the list of different types of cheeses. After saying goodbye to Feta, I add Gruyere to the team before deciding to train in Diglett Cave. If you're an experienced player, you may already be able to guess what happens here, as this is the moment I forget abilities like Arena Trap exists, and I can't swap out from Fontina, my newly captured Magikarp. So with no options left, I use Splash, and watch as Fontina is KO'd in front of me. And it's not over yet. Because of the grief and the fact that Gouda was only on half health, I decided to send out Edom instead, as she also has a super effective move. Unfortunately, I do this too quickly and do not consider the level difference. Edom does little damage, and then when Diglett does decide to attack, Edom goes down to a magnitude 10. I just lost 2 Pokemon to very preventable KOs that I should have never let happen. Honestly, I'm lucky that Gouda was only hit by a magnitude 6. I don't know if a 10 would have been able to do enough damage to KO Gouda or not, but I don't want to think about it anyway. We say goodbye to both Edom and Fontina before we have to continue on. Next, on Route 11, I capture a Drowsy, who I call Stilton, and I decide to head over to the SS Anne to continue the story and train more of my Pokemon. So after breaking into everyone's cabins and demanding battles to more safely train my Pokemon, I am surprised to run into Toast, our rival, yet again. Stilton struggles against his Pidgeotto, but is eventually able to take it down, at which point I swap into Moz, who quickly takes down his remaining 3 Pokemon. Afterwards, I head upstairs to find a seasick captain who gives me HM Cut after I rub his back a little. With Cut in hand, we can now verse the 3rd gym, and I definitely get the switch puzzle on my first try and not my 6th or 7th. Gruyere, my Diglett, proves his worth as he is able to take out everyone but Lieutenant Surge's Pokemon, one after another with just Magnitude. On Route 9, we capture a Spearow we name Grilled. In Rock Tunnel, I capture a Machop who I name Kujita. Another cheese I'm definitely pronouncing correctly. Then the unthinkable happens, as we lose Moz to a Slowpoke's Confusion. I need it to be known that I've played Pokemon since the beginning. My first game was Pokemon Yellow, gifted to me by my older sister, and somehow I forgot that Slowpoke can learn a Psychic move before it evolves. Moz had defeated our rival at every encounter so far. This was by far my worst loss yet. We make it out of Rock Tunnel and go to Lavender Town, where we say our goodbyes to Moz. Then on Route 8 we get a great encounter when we find a Growlithe. Then without thinking, I hit the Growlithe with a super effective Rock Slide and KO it, losing another one of our possible encounters. Later on Route 16, I find a Doduo that surprisingly takes out Gruyere with a Fury attack that had no business dealing that much damage. I do manage to capture the Doduo, but forget to nickname it. I'll correct this later. Probably. Maybe. While fast forwarding through Celadon City, I pick up a bowl that has an Eevee inside it. I guess that's now our encounter for the city. No Game Corner Mons for us. While at Celadon Supermart, I purchase a Firestone to evolve Eevee into a Flareon, as it will be a great Pokemon to help us at the 4th gym. What do you mean that it won't learn a Fire-type move for a long time? So instead, I decide to train up and evolve Grilled into a Fearow, as a Flying type can also be a great use against the next gym leader, Erica. During this time, I also evolve Kujita into a Machoke, and Stilton into a Hypno. I decide now it is time to verse the 4th gym and obtain our next gym badge. Stilton puts Erica's Victory Bell to sleep, then I swap to Grilled to take it out. Unfortunately, Grilled does less damage than expected, and is paralysed. Though a Fly does take out the Victory Bell. Cottage then takes out her Tangela, despite not having any fire attacks, and finally Stilton defeats her Vileplume, securing us the win and the 4th gym badge. After another gym victory, I decide to head to the Game Corner to relax, but instead find a Team Rocket grunt acting suspiciously. So I talk to him and he blurts out something about a secret button. Then after quickly defeating him, I push the button to reveal a secret staircase that takes me to a secret base. Since Team Rocket are definitely bad guys, I feel no shame stealing a bunch of items from them before meeting their boss, Giovanni, who tells me that they steal Pokemon to sell to continue running their criminal enterprises. I knew they were weird, but I didn't know they were that evil. Giovanni sends out Onix, so I immediately swap to Gouda, who takes Onix out with a Razor Leaf. Then Rhyhorn suffers the same fate. For Kangaskhan, I swap to Kojita, Frost chops his way to a KO. And with that, Giovanni is defeated. I have a feeling this won't be the last I see of him. He leaves behind the Sylph Scope, which allows me to see ghosts. So back to Lavender Town it is. Heading into Pokemon Tower, I am surprised to see our rival, Toast. Stilton defeats his team one by one, though I do need to heal him once or twice. It proves he is still one of the key players on my team. After the battle ends, I notice Toast never used his Raticate, but he leaves before I am able to ask. I hope it's okay. I may have thought some hurtful things about it in the past. Upstairs, I capture a Ghastly I name Ball, and then identify the ghost haunting the tower as a Marowak, simply trying to defend her baby Cubone from the great beyond. I help her move on, and then continue to the top of the tower. Once there, I take out some rocket grunts, though one does take out Gogeta when a Koffing uses self-destruct. Once I finish up with Team Rocket, I speak to the old man who thanks me for helping Marowak and gifts me the Poké Flute. I say my final goodbye to Gogeta and continue on my journey. With the Poké Flute in hand, we head straight to Route 12 to awaken a giant Snorlax that was blocking the path. It attacks, so of course I battle and capture it, and we call him Halloumi. Halloumi will become a vital part of our team. I continue on to Fuchsia City, skipping most of the trainers and possible encounters, as my team kind of needed healing, but I didn't want to turn back at this point. Once there, a fisherman gives me a Super Rod, and I use it on Route 19 to capture a horsey we name Paneer. On Route 15, I also get a Venonat we call Sakura. Then, in the Safari Zone, we capture a Nidorino we named Udra. Then while speeding through the game, I accidentally capture a few Pokemon that I'm not supposed to, so I call them Whoops so I can release them later. We find some golden teeth, and then we get the HM for Surf. Once we're out of there, I use a Moonstone we found earlier to evolve Uda into a Nidoking. Then in a nearby small pond in town, we fish up a Seaking, as this is technically a different area. But I accidentally KO it. One of Professor Oak's aides gives me an item finder that we use to get two leftovers, one from where I caught Snorlax, and another from where we find and defeat a second Snorlax who was also blocking a path. Lots of Snorlax and blocking paths. I go to the karate dojo thinking it's a gym, which it technically is, just not one with a badge, and after defeating everyone they offer me one of two choices, and I take Hitmonchan. I name Falcon Punch! I mean, the goat. Or just GOAT for short. I enter a tower called Silphco after noticing a bunch of Team Rocket grunts around the entrance. While I'm in there, I beat everyone and take all the items I can find. But then, I'm surprised to find my rival Toast inside, who of course wants to battle. In the battle with Toast, Halloumi proves his value as he easily dispatches Toast's Pidgeot. Udra then scares away Gyarados and is confronted by eggs, so I swap to field and quickly get the KO before swapping back to Halloumi to deal with the Alakazam. And after a quick heal, Halloumi also defeats Gyarados. Now with only Charizard remaining, I sound out Paneer, who recently evolved into a Seadra. But after getting hit by a Smoke Ball, Paneer misses Surf. Then somehow this overpowered Charizard lands a critical hit Flamethrower and takes out Paneer, despite the obvious resistance Paneer has as an actual seahorse. And so I send out Stilton to finish the Charizard and complete the battle. I accept Lapras, knowing I will have to release her back into the wild. We meet Giovanni again, and are able to quickly defeat him with no issues at all. Then the head of the company thanks me for beating Team Rocket and gives me a Master Ball. Later, after battling everyone on the bike path, Ball evolves into a Haunter. Now, after completing most of the side stories and evolving more of my Pokemon, it's finally time to return to Fuchsia City, fight Gym Leader Koga. Being a Poison-type Gym Leader, I lead with Stilton, who one-shots Koga's Koffing with a Psychic, and then two-shots his Muck with Psychic. And you can see what's going on here. The second Koffing goes down, and then finally the Wheezing, though it takes a few turns as Koga desperately tries to hold on with Hyper Potions, before I eventually just land a high roll and one-shot Wheezing from full health anyway. Now with Badge 5 in hand, I fly directly to Saffron City to fight Gym Leader Sabrina, as Koga and Sabrina share a level cap and can actually be fought in either order. I consider Sabrina the bigger threat with my current team, but Stilton is able to take out her Kadabra with some strong headbutts. I decide to swap to Halloumi for the Venomoth and get confused. After hitting myself for 2 turns, and taking a future side attack Kadabra had left for me, Halloumi finally lands a Yawn and then a Strength. Despite healing with a Hyper Potion, Halloumi KOs Venomoth from full health with a critical hit. Thanks to leftovers, I've gained back some health and have no issues versing Mr. Mime. But then, for whatever reason, Sabrina swaps to her Alakazam, which Halloumi is easily able to defeat before once again facing down Mr. Mime, and this time taking the KO, earning me my 6th gym badge. With the next gym being on Cinnabar Island, I know it's time to make use of Surf. Capture a tentacle we name Moldy on Route 20, and then a Psyduck I call Mazdum in the Seafoam Islands cave. Not that I'd use max repels to get deeper down into the cave to use Surf on the water so I could get a seal or dugong or anything like that. After using the escape rope, I fly back to Pallet Town to take an easier path to Cinnabar Island as I don't want to do the puzzles in the cave. There, a scientist says he can resurrect my fossils. A voice inside my head tells me it's not time for Lord Helix's return, but I opt for an Aerodactyl in the old amber instead. And despite only walking out of the room and then straight back in, the man accuses me of being late. I name the Aerodactyl he gives me Swiss. Swiss is only level 5. I know one of Professor Oak's aides will give me an XP share. Unfortunately, I've only caught 42 of the 50 Pokemon he wants me to capture before he will gift it to me. So I do what any sane person does. I train my Aerodactyl. I'm just kidding. I calculate how many of my current Pokemon I could evolve, and then fly all over the Kanto region, collecting encounters that I couldn't get up until this point. I train Mazdum and evolve it into a Golduck, then I trade that Golduck to a man on Route 18 for a Lickitung named Mark. But unless that's Mark and Cheese, I don't want it. So to the box with him. Afterwards, I fish up a Poliwhirl in Viridian City who I name Queso, and evolve into a Poliwrath with a Waterstone. Then in Cerulean City I surf out and use my fishing rod to find a Krabby. But first I fish up a Gyarados. Now since my Magikarp is dead, can I capture this? Or does this stand as a duplicate despite me having lost Magikarp? This is a Nuzlocke rule I am not 100% sure about, so let me know in the comments below. For now, I decide it's a duplicate and keep fishing, eventually finding Krabby, the one true Pokemon I can encounter and capture here. I name it Orange, and then I return to the Professor Oak aide to find out that I'm only at 47 of the 50 Pokemon. But back to the grind I go. On Route 14, I capture a Ditto I name Cream, and on Route 13, a Pidgey I named Mascarpone. And then with one of the few rare candies I have that I was saving for the Elite Four, I evolve Mascarpone into a Pidgeotto. So I've now registered a total of 50 Pokemon, and can go claim my prize. With the EXP share now on Swiss, I finally go to the Pokemon Mansion and encounter another Growlithe, since the previous Growlithe was a missed encounter as I KO'd it, and not a duplicate of a Pokemon I've already caught. I decide this is allowed and use an Ultra Ball that somehow captures it on full health. I name him Manchego. I went through the mansion, pushed the secret switches, and got the secret key, and then it was time to fight Blaine. Blaine starts the battle with a Growlithe, which is no match against Lumi's strengths, and Ponyta meets the same fate. Rapidash is then sent out, which leaves me a little concerned, but Lumi lands a critical hit and one-shots it. Finally, Arcanine is sent out. I decide it's safest to swap out and send out Stilton, as he has the highest special defense remaining. After attempting to sleep Arcanine for multiple turns, I finally swap back to Lumi, and he finishes the fight for me with 2 strengths. And after defeating Blaine, that's 7 badges down, 1 left to go. I exit the gym, and there's Bill. I don't remember this part of the game, as my last Kanto playthrough was on Pokemon Blue or Yellow on my 3DS. Or maybe Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu on the Nintendo Switch. But after googling, I found out I'll get more Pokemon encounters if I go with him. And the HM for Rock Smash. So I find him and head to the island. Yeah, Bill, we're here, but where are the wild Pokemon? On Kindle Road. Wait a second, is that a Rapidash? I catch it and name it Manchego 2, just in case. Then I meet some old folks and find out that it's not just Ruby and Sapphire with hot springs. Oh, and I get Rock Smash. Next I catch a Geodude named Havarti on Mount Ember, and then for the rest of it I just use max repels and leave the rest of the encounters because so far it just seems to be a lot of dupes and I'm not really leveled well enough to get the XP here. I finish helping out and return to Bill and blah blah blah, the rest of the story happens and he takes me back on the boat to Cinnabar Island. Now it's time to continue training before the final gym. With a new flying and new fire type to train, I go to Route 21, as I know there are only Tangela there, which I haven't caught, so I catch one and name it Shredded. Then after immediately getting bored fighting only Tangela, I head to the 8th gym to defeat all the gym trainers, and by the end decide to fight Giovanni then and there. It turns out when not moonlighting as a Mafia boss, he also runs a gym. Giovanni leads with Rhyhorn, which Kuda takes down with a single Razor Leaf. I stay in against the Doug Trio with another Razor Leaf doing the job. Against Nidoqueen, a little more thought is needed. I use Leech Seed and then swap to Hulumi, who takes down Nidoqueen after a couple of strengths. Against Nidoking, Strength Spam continues, and against the final Pokemon Rhyhorn, I send Gouda back out to finish the job. With a little work from everyone, we defeat him yet again, 8th gym badge acquired. After earning my 8th and final gym badge, I ran into Toast earlier than expected, as I thought he'd be at the start or the end of Victory Road. But as our battle starts with his Pidgeot against Swiss with my Aerodactyl, I'm able to KO it with a few ancient powers. Though I get an Omni boost to my stats, I decide to swap to Lumi to fight Toast Gyarados. Despite the Intimidate, I yawn, and then spam Strength that does take 4 turns to KO Gyarados, but somehow Gyarados just sleeps through it and is KO'd. Charizard is sent out, and I follow a similar strategy of putting it to sleep before spamming Strength. Throw on a heal, and Lumi's able to defeat him. For Rhyhorn coming in, I send out Gouda, one-shots it with a Razor Leaf. And against the Alakazam, I send out Stilton, who puts it to sleep before healing and swapping to Lumi, as I've removed Stilton's Headbutt and have no good damaging moves for this fight. The final Pokemon is Execute, so I give Manchego his time to shine, and a few Flame Wheels later, I take the victory. After showing off all my gym badges to get through each checkpoint, now it is time to finally go through Victory Road. I did skip the Route 23 encounter, it's the only Pokemon left that wouldn't be a duplicate is Goldeen, but I still have another chance in Victory Road itself, and I encounter an Onix. I capture him and name him Rockfort, and I assume that is pronounced like Rockfort, so it makes sense. After finally making my way through the cave, I arrive at the Elite Four. After an off-screen grinding session, it's finally time to face the Elite Four. So here is a Firestone for Manchego, so he can finally evolve into an Arcanine. With Manchego now an Arcanine, I'm ready to attempt the Elite Four. Now with items on my Pokemon and healing items ready in my bag, the showdown finally begins. The first Elite Four member, Lorelei, and her Ice-type Pokemon prove a bit of a pain, but Palumi is able to defeat Dugong and then Callista. Against the Slowbro, I swap to Gouda, who easily defeats it, then I swap back to Palumi to fight Lorelei's Lapras. Despite annoying confusion, I defeat it and go to the final Pokemon, Jinx. Between Ice Punches freezing me and a track infatuating my Snorlax, not to mention the lovely kisses that put me to sleep, this turns out to be one of the longest battles in the entire Elite Four, and probably the entire playthrough. Eventually Halloumi takes down Jinx and I'm finally allowed to move on. Next is Elite Four member Bruno. I lead with Gouda, who takes out Onix with a Razor Leaf, and then Leech Seeds Hitmonchan. But after seeing the damage Razor Leaf does, I opt for Poison Powder and then actually decide to set up with Growth using healing items when needed. After a few growths and letting the poison do its work, Hitmonchan goes down. Now boosted Razor Leaf does a lot of damage against Hitmonlee, and a second takes it out. One more Razor Leaf for the second Onix, and then comes Machamp. I set up with Leech Seeds and Poison, and then heal before dealing the final blow with Razor Leaf that I should have honestly just spammed from the start, as after a bulk up, Machamp's cross drop hits like a truck. But with Bruno defeated, that's 2 down and 2 to go before we can face the champion. Agatha is next, and I decide to lead with Swiss. Gengar's double team strat causes some small issues, but Swiss is eventually able to defeat it. I swap to Arcanine to take care of Arbok, and then Stilton for Golbat. I take the time to antidote my poisoned Pokemon, and then after sleeping Golbat again, I swap to Gouda, hoping to set up. But as Golbat awakens immediately, this proves a poor decision, and a drawn-out battle ensues, where I just spam healing items instead of swapping out. Haunter is no match for a couple of boosted Razor Leafs, and then against the final Gengar, I use Leech Seed and slowly whittle it down before defeating Agatha. Honestly, it felt a bit cheesy, no pun intended, using so many potions and recovery items. So many that won't be seen in the clips of this battle. So after teaching Poliwrath Blizzard, I go into the next battle, trying to be more strategic. Now it's time to verse Elite Four leader Lance and his dreaded dragon types. I lead Stilton against Lance's Gyarados. Hypnosis puts it to sleep after 2 attempts, and then I use Calm Mind for multiple turns in a row, thinking I would easily survive a Dragon Rage at that stage. But when Gyarados finally wakes up, it opts for a Hyper Beam instead. Taking down Stilton and any setup I'd worked on, marking my first loss in the Elite Four. Swiss comes out and finishes Gyarados off with a few ancient powers, then I swap to Queso to use Surf on Lance's Aerodactyl. I'm able to take it down, but I'm left in the red. Dragonite is sent out next, so I swap to Halloumi and fail a Yawn as Dragonite sets up a safeguard. I waste a turn using Covet, not realizing that the chance to take the item won't work if I'm already holding one. After taking the time to heal both Halloumi and Queso, a confused Dragonite attacks. It's Hyper Beam, and I watch as my health keeps going down. It's a critical hit. And just like that, Nalumi goes down. A devastating loss for my team and this Elite Four attempt. I send out Queso, who has a free hit against the recharging Dragonite, and opt for a Surf that does way less damage than expected. But I am able to learn a Blizzard the next turn and secure the KO. With nothing left but 2 Dragonairs, I'm able to quickly defeat them with Queso using a Blizzard and a Surf on each of them to secure the KOs. With lands defeated, we are 1 battle away from claiming our place as the Pokemon Champion. Having lost 2 great Pokemon, I heal up and actually use most of my rare candies on Queso, going from level 53 to 58. I decide to use the final 2 on Swiss to take him up to level 52, and with nothing left to do, I head into the final battle against the newly crowned champion, our rival Toast. I lead Swiss against Pidgeot and go for back-to-back Ancient Powers before realizing I came into battle with only 1 PP. I attempt to bite, hoping for a flinch, but fail. I spend a turn to restore PP to Ancient Power with an Ether. Toast 4 restores Pidgeot, but thankfully I land a critical hit and it takes it down with 1 shot. I decide to stay in against Gyarados despite the Intimidate further lowering my attack. I opt for a bite, hoping for a flinch, thinking I can get in Ancient Power afterwards if I sacrifice Swiss, but with bite not flinching, and frankly that being a terrible plan with only a 30% flinch chance, Swiss goes down to a Hydro Pump. 3 Pokemon remaining in a glaring weakness against Gyarados, I send out Gouda. It takes 2 Leech Seeds, and then I poison Gyarados before using Razor Leaf to take it down. Alakazam is in next, and I decide Manchego is my best bet. Unfortunately, Alakazam crits on its Psychic and one-shots Manchego, leaving me with 2 Pokemon both weak to Psychic. I send out Gouda and heal to see how much damage will be dealt, while Alakazam sets up a Future Sight before one-shotting Gouda with a Psychic. Finally, I send out Queso, my last chance, who takes a Psychic and goes down to 10 HP. Future Sight goes off, but it fails! I full restore, but take another Psychic, so I full restore again. Alakazam uses a Future Sight this turn, meaning I have a chance to attack finally. I land a Hypnosis, but after Alakazam hits me with a Psychic, I heal again, but then take the Future Sight, forcing me to heal once more. Alakazam awakens and uses Future Sight while we play this game of cat and mouse with me spamming full restores, waiting for me to either get knocked out or land a Hypnosis and give me a chance to attack. Eventually it happens and I'm able to finally land a Surf, dealing half damage. Alakazam is still asleep, so I go for a second Surf. He wakes up and uses Psychic, taking me down to just 2 HP. My second Surf lands, and it survives. We both go for full restores. I use Hypnosis and he reflects. I think I've P-stalled this Alakazam with 4 restores and finally catching a break. It sleeps and I go for Surf. It stays asleep, so I Surf once again, sending it to the red. My final Surf goes up against it, but it awakens and uses Psychic, putting me in just 2 HP again. But this time, Surf hits and takes down Alakazam. Toast sends out his Charizard, showing me he still has 3 Pokemon remaining, but if I can take down Charizard, I still have a chance. I full restore and get hit by a Slash that does little damage. I go for Surf, but Charizard hits me with an Aerial Ace this time, dealing more damage. But Surf does more than half, so I'm in a good place if I can survive, even with the Citrus Berry healing Charizard. I decide to heal again before taking an Aerial Ace, which felt like the right decision. Now time to take it down with Surf, but Charizard is still faster, and its Aerial Ace hits, and my health just keeps going down. It was a critical hit. The battle is over. I've lost. And to make it worse, he still had 2 Pokemon left after his Charizard. But while removing my team, it occurs to me, this is a standard Nuzlocke. Whiteout does not mean failure. I can try again with another team. So with Cottage the Flareon, Blue the Butterfree, Uda the Nidoking, Quill the Fearow, and Orange the Krabby, all of my old buddies, it's time to try again. You might be asking yourself, who's my 6th Pokemon? Well, you'll see. I fly to Cerulean City, I cut the tree, I jump the ledges. The daycare, Puff has been there this whole time. The old man greets me and tells me Puff has grown 38 levels, so I pay the man, use a Moonstone to evolve Puff into a Wigglytuff. And then after a long planning and grinding session, I put items on the new Pokemon and teach them all the TMs I can. I evolve Orange the Krabby into Orange the Kingler. Now full disclosure, this time around I don't want to do hours of grinding Tangler on Route 21, so I do hack in rare candies and bring my party up to level 60. I didn't want to abuse the leveling and opt for 60 as it matches Lance's Dragonite, which feels like the most balanced level, as I may level while I'm in the Elite Four again anyway. Once again, it's time to enter the Elite Four. My party of Pokemon all at level 60. The first time I came in under-leveled, But again, this isn't a hardcore Nuzlocke. Gouda takes out Lorelei. I take out all of Bruno's Pokemon, or that is, until the final, Machamp. I had no issues with him last time, but I'm about to lose Grilled, so I send out Blue, a Rock Tomb. Blue goes down. No problem, Gouda will win it for me. Earthquake. But nope. Machamp survives in the red. A scary face. My speed drops, but I know I can survive all these moves. Cross chop. Oh no, of course it crits now. Gouda goes down despite it not being very effective. Sending Cottage to finish the job, but I've lost 2 Pokemon before the champion again, and I still have both Agatha and Lance to face. I set up for Agatha, knowing I can't afford any more losses. And with Cottage and some dark type attacks, I don't. We're able to get through her really easily. On to Lance, he took out 2 of my Pokemon last time, and I'm already down 2 Pokemon this time. Okay, here we go. The battle begins with Lance once again leading his Gyarados. I lead Puff with the goal of setting up some screens. Gyarados being faster uses a bite and triggers Puff's cute charm. Thunderbolt nearly takes down Gyarados but falls short, so I Thunderbolt again as Lance uses a full restore, but this time it doesn't matter, a high roll takes down Gyarados. Lance sends out Aerodactyl. Despite taking quite a bit of damage, I am able to reset my light screen and take down Aerodactyl with 2 Thunderbolts. Dragonite is up next. I stay in and go for a heal before suffering to a wing attack, but it does activate Puff's cute charm. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop Dragonite who uses Hyper Beam. Please not again. Somehow, Puff survives on 1 HP. Thunderbolt does no damage, but I do have a free swap into Orange, my Kingler. I waste a turn on Crabhammer, not expecting the absolute abysmal damage that it deals, while Dragonite sets up a safeguard. The downside to not training my Pokemon is I haven't really experienced how each of its attacks work against a variety of Pokemon, so that Crabhammer felt like a bit of a mistake. I opt for Stomp, not having any Ice-type moves to deal with Dragonite this time around, and then when Orange falls into the red, I swap into Grilled, who takes an Outrage. I decide to use Fly to avoid the next Outrage, and by some stroke of luck, Dragonite's Outrage ends there, and it becomes confused. Fly lands, and Dragonite then proceeds to hit itself in confusion. It does activate its Citrus Berry, and then after debating whether or not I should heal, I decide to use Fly again, and I'm able to secure the KO with a Pokemon I was already ready to sacrifice. With only Dragonairs left, I send out Puff and immediately heal, before taking each of them down with a flurry of Body Slams, securing us the win once again against Lance. I heal up and head into the champion once again. Time to face down Toast and his Charizard. One last battle. Toast sends out his Pidgeot, and I send out Puff. After setting up my screens, I am easily able to take it down with 2 Thunderbolts. Next is Alakazam. I decide to stay in, and after tanking 2 Psychics, Puff is able to defeat him with some Body Slams. Now comes Executor, one of the 2 Pokemon I didn't even get to see last time, so I quickly swapped to Cottage, who was then able to take it down with a single Flamethrower. Next, Toast sends out Rhydon, second of the 2 I didn't get to see. So after swapping to Orange, a Quick Surf is easily able to one-shot it. With Gyarados coming and only Charizard left after that, I go into Grilled to give myself a chance to heal Puff, as I know I'll need Light Screen to give myself my best chance against Charizard. Grilled actually tanks hits way better than I expected, so I am able to whittle down the Gyarados' health. I let Grilled go down, and then I send out Puff to set up Light Screen, but Toast full restores Gyarados, wasting the effort Grilled put in. Honestly, if I knew how well Grilled would have done, I probably would have planned this a bit better, or maybe even swapped out earlier. 2 Thunderbolts take down Gyarados, leaving me with 3 turns of Light Screen left when Charizard comes out. I of course swap to Orange, as this is where Crabhammer will finally have a chance to shine. Charizard is fast, so its Fire Blast goes first. Oh no. And it's a critical hit. So I lose my best counter, despite having a resistant Fire-type attacks and also having up the Light Screen. I send out Puff and heal to full, but it's my last full restore. Charizard uses another Fire Blast and takes Puff down to 69 HP. Not nice. I swap into Cottage knowing Puff won't survive another hit, but its Thunderbolt is my best chance. Fire Blast misses Cottage, and then I'm able to get off a bite before taking an aerial ace. The damage was too small, so I check what healing items I have left and decide it's best to use what life Cottage has left to get Puff back up as high HP as I can. You may notice multiple instances of rare candy in my bag, and I believe that has glitched and overridden some of my items, which may have included some much needed healing items. But whether or not that is the case, I don't know if any would have been better than the soda pops I end up using to bring Puff back up. After Cottage goes down to a slash, it is time to see if Puff has what it takes to take down Toast and his Charizard and earn us the title of Pokemon Champion. Another Fire Blast immediately takes me down to 32 HP before my Thunderbolt is able to deal a good amount of damage. Unfortunately, Charizard hasn't used its Citrus Berry this time and it heals a good chunk of its health. Now with a high roll, I might be able to take it down with a Thunderbolt, but I'm not sure. I could heal, but another Fire Blast would KO me either way. So I use Thunderbolt and pray that Charizard will miss, as Fire Blast only has 85 accuracy. And then Charizard uses Slash. It hits and takes down Puff with an anticlimactic ending to the second attempt. This match was much closer with Charizard being the only Pokemon remaining. It was really unfortunate that Orange suffered a critical hit, as even if a single Crabhammer couldn't secure the KO, it could have made a big difference for the entire battle. I feel like the other obvious answer was to swap into Cottage, but hindsight is 20/20. I have other Pokemon, but frankly I think this is my end. My Pokemon did their best. If I'm honest, I think I could have done better for the team. Even if I just had a few more healing items, I think I could have won this attempt. As I head back to Pallet Town, I understand now why other Nuzlockers and Pokemon players use guides and calculations. Even without guides, if you have enough knowledge to know how many PP a move has or how secondary abilities like those of attacks like Covet work, I think your chances get dramatically better. I'll continue to become a better trainer. So next time I attempt to Nuzlocke Fire Red, I'll be able to win for sure. On Route 1, I run into a Rattata, as the adventure for Cheese has come to an end. I send out Mark, the Lickitung. I go home and see Mum before going upstairs to rest. This adventure is over, but I hear the Hoenn region is a nice place to visit, and I think my next challenge will be hardcore. Thanks for watching.